Settle in. Close your eyes if that feels right. And let your breathing match the slow turning of distant worlds. Because tonight, we begin. 100 sleepy facts about forbidden force abilities. A peaceful journey through dark powers, lost techniques, and the secrets that sleep between the stars. Fact 1. Whispers before the dawn. Long before the Jedi or the Sith shaped the galaxy, the earliest force-sensitive beings discovered abilities that had no names, only sensations. They felt the currents of life around them and reached out with instinct alone, unaware that some of what they touched would one day be called forbidden. In those ancient ages, the lines between light and shadow did not yet exist. There were only raw emotions, peaceful or turbulent, guiding their hands. These early wanderers learned that some abilities stirred too much fear among their tribes, strange manipulations of spirit and matter that seemed to pull from places unseen. Terrified, communities asked their mystics to hide these arts, burying them in silence. And from that silence, the first forbidden powers were born. Fact 2. The first shadow techniques. As early Force users grew more curious, some began experimenting with the darker, heavier frequencies of the Force. They found that strong anger, grief, or longing could twist their abilities into unfamiliar shapes, shaping shadows like clay, bending the world not through harmony, but through pressure. No one had taught them this. It was simply a natural consequence of touching the Force while burdened by emotion. These early shadow techniques were crude and unpredictable, but they gave birth to a realization that echoed through millennia. The Force responds to the heart as much as the mind. Powers born from suffering could disrupt the balance of an entire community. Elders spoke of a weight settling over their villages after such techniques were used, a heaviness that lingered in the air. And in that heaviness, the seeds of caution began to grow, guiding the galaxy toward its first rules. Fact 3. The birth of the forbidden. When the earliest Jedi gathered to form their order, they brought with them countless stories of strange abilities witnessed across their homeworlds, powers that caused illness, fear, or unraveled the mind. To protect the fragile harmony they sought to create, the Jedi declared certain abilities forbidden, not out of cruelty, but compassion. They believed that no seeker should shoulder techniques that could harm the soul, even unintentionally. And so, scrolls were sealed. Holocrons were locked away. Whole disciplines were quietly removed from teaching, tucked deep within archives where light could not reach. The Jedi hoped that by hiding these powers, they would fade. But hidden knowledge rarely sleeps forever. And somewhere in that stillness, the next shadow began to stir. Fact 4. Echoes of the Prime Jedi. Deep within the first Jedi temple on Ahch-To, ancient carvings depict a figure surrounded by both light and shadow. This being, the Prime Jedi, understood that the Force was never meant to be split into strict halves. Yet even in those earliest teachings, faint warnings appear. Spirals etched into stone, symbols for imbalance, glyphs representing abilities that could fracture the mind or drain the spirit. These carvings suggest that long before the Jedi codified their rules, they knew some powers demanded great caution. To behold the Prime Jedi's mosaic is to feel a quiet reminder that mastery requires humility and curiosity must be tempered with wisdom. And in the temple's silence, one can almost hear ancient warnings breathe again. Fact 5. The temptation of power. As Jedi philosophy took shape, scholars noticed a troubling truth. Forbidden abilities often carried an allure far stronger than permitted techniques. Their secrecy gave them a mythic glow. Padawans whispered about them in candlelit corridors, imagining what such powers felt like. Some even believed that mastering forbidden abilities meant understanding the Force more completely. But the Jedi warned that temptation itself was the danger. For these abilities did not merely change the world around the wielder, they changed the wielder's heart. Even a well-intentioned seeker might lose themselves in the intoxicating feeling of power without limits. And so, the Jedi learned that what is forbidden is often desired, precisely because it is hidden. Fact 6. Lost to the ages. Over centuries, many forbidden abilities were erased from common knowledge. Scrolls describing them fell into decay. Holocrons were sealed behind layers of encryption. Entire meditation forms vanished from teaching halls, their names mentioned only during solemn councils. Some abilities were lost by accident, forgotten through time. Others were deliberately cast into oblivion, their very existence wiped from official records to shield future generations from harm. Yet a few fragments survived. A line of text here, a whispered memory there, the lingering echo of a technique practiced by someone who should have never learned it. These remnants drifted through history like dust in sunbeams, faint, fragile, and waiting. And from those drifting fragments, forgotten knowledge quietly lingered, ready for the curious to rediscover. Fact 7. The unnamed dark path. Among the earliest Force traditions, there existed a quiet sect that refused to name their teachings. They believed that giving power a name gave it form, and giving it form gave it influence. So their abilities were passed only through feeling, a gesture shared in firelight, a whisper carried from teacher to student. Many of these skills leaned into the darker shades of emotion, shaping the Force through sorrow, rage, or longing. Because no names were recorded, their abilities drifted like ghosts through history, never fully claimed by Jedi or Sith. Some say these nameless practices still echo in forgotten corners of the galaxy, waiting for someone whose heart resonates with their ancient rhythm. And in that namelessness, mystery quietly rests. Fact 8. Guardians of hidden knowledge. To keep dangerous abilities from spreading, the Jedi appointed a small, secretive group known as the Keepers of the Vault. These monks lived deep within archives, rarely seen by outsiders, devoting their lives to preserving, but never using, the techniques too perilous to teach. They studied just enough to identify these powers, ensuring they could recognize them if they appeared in the galaxy again. Their existence was rarely acknowledged, even within the Order. Many knights never knew the Keepers existed at all. These monks carried a solemn burden, maintaining knowledge that must never be practiced. Every scroll they locked away was a reminder that curiosity without guidance could unravel harmony. And in their silent chambers, the shadows of forgotten power slept. Fact 9. Dread holocrons. While Jedi holocrons tried to bury forbidden abilities under layers of caution, Sith holocrons preserved them with delight. These artifacts, often shaped like jagged pyramids or cold obsidian cubes, housed the teachings of Dark Lords eager to pass their secrets forward. Opening one was not a simple act of study. It was an invitation. Sith spirits embedded within them spoke seductively, offering power in exchange for devotion. But even some Jedi holocrons held knowledge deemed too dangerous for the young. These dread holocrons, sealed by masters long gone, contained warnings, countermeasures, and grim histories of abilities best forgotten. Few dared open them, for the line between caution and corruption was often thinner than a whisper, and in that whisper, another temptation begins. Fact 10. The cost of knowing. Every forbidden ability carries a price, and the earliest Jedi learned this not from caution, but from consequence. Those who delved too deeply into shadow techniques often found themselves drained, unfocused, or burdened with lingering echoes of the emotions they had drawn upon. Even the simple act of studying these powers, without using them, left a heaviness on the spirit, as if the knowledge itself pressed against the heart. This is why the Jedi chose to hide these teachings rather than destroy them, because to unmake them required knowing them, and knowing them invited danger. Thus, the Order learned that some truths are not meant to be mastered, but respected from afar. And with every closed holocron, the galaxy breathed a little easier. Fact 11. Dark persuasion. Among the simplest, yet most troubling forbidden abilities is the art of dark persuasion, a technique that bends another's will through overwhelming emotional pressure. Unlike the gentle nudge of the Jedi mind trick, this method crushes resistance, forcing obedience not through clarity, but through fear, guilt, or raw intimidation. Early Force mystics discovered that strong emotions could amplify their influence, allowing them to twist decisions in moments of desperation. While effective, this technique often left the victim shaken, unsure if their choices were ever truly their own. The Jedi banned dark persuasion not merely for its cruelty, but for the way it warped the user, teaching them to see others as tools instead of souls. And somewhere in that shift, the shadow always deepened. Fact 12. Memory Rip. One of the most haunting forbidden abilities is known as Memory Rip, the power to extract or erase memories through direct contact with another mind. Ancient texts speak of worlds where knowledge was guarded so fiercely that entire eras vanished under the hands of those who wielded this technique. Memory Rip is not clean or precise. It tears through thoughts like a storm, leaving behind gaps, echoes, and emotional bruises. The user often feels the memory as it departs, experiencing fragments of another life before it dissolves into nothingness. The Jedi feared that even a compassionate practitioner might misuse this ability in moments of desperation, or lose themselves in memories not their own. And where one memory fades, another darker path opens. Fact 13. Mind Shatter. Among the most feared mental techniques whispered through ancient archives is Mind Shatter, a psychic blow strong enough to fracture a person's concentration, awareness, or even identity. Unlike physical combat, this attack strikes in silence, delivered with a single focused thought. Those who experienced it described the sensation as a sudden emptiness, like a lantern blown out in a quiet room. Practitioners of this ability often suffered aftershocks as well, for such violence against consciousness requires immense emotional strain. The Jedi forbade Mind Shatter not simply because it harms, but because it teaches the user to see minds as fragile vessels, things that can be broken rather than understood. And in the soft ruins of that silence, another shadow waits to be named. Fact 14. Force Madness. In the darker corners of Force lore lies Force Madness, an ability that clouds the mind in chaos. Instead of clarity, it floods the target with overwhelming colors of emotion: fear, confusion, rage, sorrow, swirling together until calm thought becomes impossible. Some ancient warriors used it to divert armies, turning their enemies against one another without lifting a blade. But this ability leaves behind deep wounds, trembling uncertainty, lost time, and memories fragmented like shattered glass. The user, too, risks corruption, for to stir madness in another is to taste the edges of it oneself. The Force does not give such turmoil freely. It echoes within the one who summons it. And when the echoes fade, a fragile quiet settles over the battlefield of the mind. Fact 15. Dream invasion. Perhaps the most quietly unsettling forbidden technique is dream invasion. The ability to slip into another being's dreams, shaping the landscapes of their sleep. Practitioners could soothe or terrify, comfort or manipulate, all from the shadows of the subconscious. Some used it to deliver warnings across great distances. Others used it to torment rivals without ever meeting them face to face. Yet dreams are delicate places, woven from memories, fears, and private longings. To enter another's dreams is to step into their truest self, unguarded and vulnerable. The Jedi banned this ability because it blurs the line between presence and violation, turning rest, the safest of all spaces, into uncertain ground. And where dreams are touched, deeper mysteries begin to stir. Fact 16. Illusory realms. Some ancient Force mystics discovered a technique so subtle, so dreamlike, that it blurred the boundary between sight and spirit. This ability, known as illusory realms, allowed a user to create visions so detailed they felt woven from reality itself. Unlike simple tricks of the eye, these illusions carried weight, sound, and emotion, entire moments sculpted from the Force. A traveler might walk through a forest that wasn't truly there, hear the laughter of someone long gone, or see a horizon shaped from memory. But such power demanded great care. Illusions born from fear fed fear. Illusions born from longing trapped both creator and target in echoes of the past. And when these visions dissolved, they left a quiet ache where something unreal had once felt true. Fact 17. Spectral conversation. Hidden within the musings of long-forgotten scholars is a technique called spectral conversation, the ability to call faint echoes of the departed, not as full spirits, but as whispers carried through the Force. Practitioners sought guidance, closure, or understanding, reaching across the veil of death with trembling hearts. These encounters were gentle, hazy, and fleeting, like talking to someone through a long corridor filled with mist. The Jedi hesitated to teach this gift, fearing it might tempt mourners into clinging to what the Force had already reclaimed. For every whisper that brought comfort, another brought longing. And longing, if left untempered, could lead even the brightest soul into shadow. And when the whisper faded, the silence left behind felt heavier than before. Fact 18. Emotion feeding. Among the most dangerous forbidden abilities is emotion feeding, the practice of drawing strength from the emotions of others. While all Force users naturally sense feelings around them, this technique goes a step further, absorbing intense emotions like a dark tide pulling at the heart. Fear, anger, despair. These were the easiest to consume, for they burned the brightest. Some ancient warriors used this ability to swell with power in the midst of battle, growing stronger as their enemies faltered. But this act left a stain. The more one fed on the pain of others, the more they depended on it, shaping their life around the pursuit of suffering. For the Jedi, this was a path that led only toward ruin. And in the hunger that followed, a deeper shadow always formed. Fact 19. Terror. Projection. In the darker studies of forbidden Force arts lies a technique known as terror projection, the ability to send a wave of pure fear into the heart of another being. Unlike mere intimidation, this fear was primal, bypassing logic and memory, touching the deepest instincts for survival. To the victim, the world seemed to darken, shadows lengthened, an invisible pressure wrapped around the chest like cold hands. Even seasoned warriors collapsed under such force, trembling as if facing an unseen predator. The Jedi banned this technique not only for its cruelty, but because it required the user to cultivate fear within themselves. To wield terror, one had to know it intimately, and in that exchange, both user and target felt the touch of darkness. Fact 20. The Veil of Silence. Some forbidden abilities were subtle rather than destructive, like the Veil of Silence, a technique that let a Force user erase their presence, hiding themselves from both sight and spiritual detection. Practitioners could walk through crowded markets unnoticed, slip past guards, or meditate in complete secrecy. This ability required perfect emotional stillness, for even a flicker of fear or ambition could break the veil. The danger lay not in its power, but in its purpose. Jedi Masters feared that those who mastered this technique might cling too tightly to secrecy, detaching from others until isolation hollowed the heart. And for the Sith, such silence offered the perfect cloak for deception. Thus, the ability was sealed away, whispered about only in the quietest corners of ancient libraries. And within that hush, another secret waited. Fact 21. Transfer Essence. As we cross into abilities that touch life itself, one of the most infamous is Transfer Essence, a desperate and forbidden art used by certain Sith lords to escape death. Through this technique, a spirit attempts to abandon its failing body and seize another, clinging to existence through sheer will. To the user, it feels like plunging into a storm of memories, emotions, and resistance. To the victim, it is like being drowned in someone else's presence, pushed aside within their own mind. Such acts seldom succeeded cleanly. Even when they did, the resulting life was fragile, incomplete, haunted by the conflict of two souls sharing one shell. And in that uneasy survival, the cost of defying nature became painfully clear. Fact 22. Dark Healing. While the Jedi practiced healing through harmony and compassion, there existed a far more troubling counterpart known as dark healing. This forbidden art did not mend wounds through balance. It sealed them through sheer dominance of the Force. Pain was pushed aside, tissues forced to knit together under the weight of the user's will. To the recipient, the sensation was unsettling. A cold tightening, as if the injury were being stitched shut by invisible chains. Though effective, dark healing carried invisible scars. It left the body whole, but the spirit bruised, infused with the residue of the user's emotional turmoil. Many who received it felt a lingering heaviness long after their wounds were closed. And in those quiet scars, the shadow's touch remained. Fact 23. Life Drain. Among the most feared abilities ever whispered through the galaxy is life drain, the act of siphoning vitality directly from another being. Practitioners drew energy through the Force like water from a well, growing stronger as their victim weakened. Some ancient warlords used it to rise from the brink of death, stealing years of life in mere seconds. But this technique demanded a chilling trade. The user had to open themselves to suffering, feeling the fading heartbeat of the one they drained. Even the Sith approached this power cautiously, for taking life so intimately carved deep fissures in the soul. To drain another's essence was to taste mortality itself, and to grow addicted to that taste. And in the emptiness that followed, hunger often returned twice as strong. Fact 24. Mirrored vitality. Unlike life drain, which steals, mirrored vitality binds. This rare and dangerous technique links two beings so their life forces echo one another. If one grows weak, the other falters. If one grows strong, the other flourishes. Ancient mystics used it to heal loved ones, sharing their strength through the Force. But for every kindness this ability offered, a terrible risk followed. Enemies could bind themselves to rivals, ensuring any harm inflicted would be felt by both. Peacekeepers could link with criminals, preventing escape, but endangering themselves in the process. The Jedi forbade it because such a bond blurred the line between self and other. A connection too deep, too consuming, too vulnerable to corruption. And where two lives intertwine, destiny becomes a fragile thread. Fact 25. The breathless state. Among the quieter forbidden abilities is the breathless state, a meditation so deep that breath, heartbeat, and movement fall to nearly nothing. Ancient adepts used it to survive extreme conditions, slipping into a trance where the Force sustained them in place of air. To onlookers, the practitioner appeared lifeless, suspended in a stillness deeper than sleep. But within, their awareness floated gently above their body, wrapped in waves of calm. The danger was subtle, remained too long, and the spirit might drift too far from the flesh, losing its way back. Even Jedi Masters hesitated to explore this state, fearing the delicate balance it required. And in that near-silent trance, the line between life and stillness softly blurred. Fact 26. Death Sight. Whispered among early mystics was an ability called Death Sight, the unsettling gift to sense when a living being stood close to the end of their journey. To those who possessed it, a faint dimming surrounded individuals whose threads of fate were thinning, like a candle flickering in a draft. Some saw it as a burden, others a sacred warning to offer comfort or protection. But this perception came with a cost. Seeing the fragility of life in every gaze carved a quiet sorrow into the heart. The Jedi hesitated to teach or acknowledge this ability, fearing its weight could warp compassion into despair. And so, Death Sight slipped into obscurity, leaving the galaxy to face mortality without such heavy foresight. Fact 27. Force Plague. One of the most chilling, forbidden powers is Force Plague, the ability to spread sickness through corrupt energy. Early writings describe practitioners channeling their anger or hatred until it manifested as a physical blight, carried on touch or proximity. Victims suffered fevers, weakness, and disorientation, their bodies reacting to emotional poison rather than any natural illness. The technique was rarely used, even among the Sith, for it required the wielder to focus on suffering so intensely that their own health often faltered afterward. The Jedi condemned this ability outright, sealing records of it in deep archives and urging future generations never to wander near such darkness. And where sickness once spread, a somber silence followed, heavy as a shadow at dusk. Fact 28. Cellular manipulation. Hidden in ancient scrolls is mention of a rare and deeply unsettling technique called cellular manipulation, the ability to reshape living tissue through direct contact with the Force. Practitioners could encourage cells to grow, retract, harden, or soften, altering the body in ways that defied natural healing. Some used it to mend broken forms. Others twisted it into a weapon, warping bones or sinew with a single touch. Yet even benevolent attempts carried risk, for the Force was never meant to sculpt life like clay. Those who practiced too often found their own bodies reacting strangely. mirroring the changes they imposed on others. The Jedi buried these teachings to prevent a future where compassion might become control. And in those forgotten pages, the living force remained respectfully untouched. Fact 29. Blood echoes. Among the more mystical, forbidden abilities is blood echoes, a technique that allowed a Force user to sense ancestry by placing their hand upon another's pulse. Ancient adepts believed blood carried stories, generations of choices, triumphs, and wounds whispered through the Force. By listening deeply, they could feel faint impressions of a person's lineage, glimpses of forebears long gone. Some cultures used this power for guidance, others for judgment. But the gift blurred the boundaries between identity and inheritance, revealing truths not meant to be known. The Jedi feared that such knowledge could lead to prejudice or obsession, and so the ability was gently erased from training, preserved only in fragmented myths. And in that soft fading of memory, blood kept its quiet secrets once more. Fact 30. The unborn vision. In the most hushed corners of ancient lore lies the unborn vision, a gentle yet troubling ability, allowing a Force user to sense life before it has fully begun. Practitioners described a faint glow around expectant parents, a shimmer of possibility rather than prophecy. This vision did not reveal destiny, only potential. A being not yet shaped by the galaxy, but already singing softly within the Force. Though beautiful, the ability carried emotional weight. To glimpse a life so delicate invited attachment, fear, or interference. The Jedi forbade it not out of coldness, but to protect both parent and child from expectations heavy enough to shape their future. And in that small shimmer of potential, the Force whispered of beginnings yet to come. Fact 31. Dark tendrils. Among the earliest elemental manifestations of forbidden power were the dark tendrils, shadowy extensions of the Force that coiled outward like living threads. Practitioners could use these spectral arms to grasp, pull, restrain, or defend, each movement guided not by muscle, but by emotion. The tendrils were not true matter, yet they carried weight and coldness, shifting like ink in water. Some ancient sorcerers used them to hold back predators or lift boulders too heavy for telekinesis alone. But the technique demanded a heart steeped in turmoil. Each tendril grew stronger when shaped by fear, grief, or anger. Over time, these emotions clung to the user like soot, and when the tendrils finally faded, a lingering chill remained in the air, as if shadows still watched. Fact 32. Crushing Sphere. One of the most dangerous telekinetic arts, forbidden by both Jedi and Sith, was the crushing sphere. A focused collapse of the Force around a single point. Instead of pushing or pulling an object, the user created an invisible vortex that constricted from all angles at once. To witnesses, it appeared as though reality itself tightened, pressing inward with unstoppable pressure. Though powerful, the technique demanded absolute concentration. Any flicker of doubt, guilt, or fear could cause the sphere to implode outward instead, sending a shockwave in all directions. Even the most disciplined Jedi Masters refused to teach it, knowing that no battle was worth risking such unpredictable destruction. And as the echoes of the collapse faded, silence returned heavier than before. Fact 33. Forbidden lightning. While most beings know only the crackling fury of standard Force lightning, ancient records speak of its even more perilous variations, collectively whispered as forbidden lightning. Some forms burned cold instead of hot, freezing the spirit rather than the flesh. Others forked like branches of night sky fire, spreading across multiple targets with eerie precision. A few rare variations carried emotional resonance, amplifying the fear or anger of anyone struck. These forms required intense emotional imbalance, channeling hatred or despair to a degree that scarred the user's own essence. Even the Sith used them sparingly, for the toll on one's spirit could be irreversible. And when the final sparks dimmed, the shadow of their aftermath remained long after the light faded. Fact 34. Kinetic implosion. Among the most volatile, forbidden abilities ever whispered through ancient archives is kinetic implosion, a technique that folds the Force inward upon itself. Instead of pushing or pulling, the user creates a sudden vacuum of telekinetic pressure, causing an object or area to collapse toward its own center. To the eye, it appears as a momentary distortion in the air, a gentle ripple before the world briefly buckles. The danger lies in its unpredictability. Even the slightest emotional instability can cause the implosion to overreach, pulling more than the user intended. Debris, structures, or even the practitioner's own strength. Jedi Masters sealed this ability away, believing it too destructive for any peaceful purpose. And as the air settles after such collapse, an uneasy stillness lingers, like a held breath. Fact 35. Force Tempest. In ancient tales, weather itself bent to the emotions of powerful Force adepts. Force Tempest is one such forbidden manifestation, a storm-like eruption of raw energy swirling around the user. Winds whip in spirals, dust rises in sweeping circles, and the air crackles with charged tension. This tempest is not summoned by gesture or incantation, but by emotional overload, sorrow that spills over, rage too vast to contain, or grief so deep it reshapes the world around its bearer. The technique was feared because it reflected the heart too honestly. A single moment of panic could unleash a maelstrom, harming allies and enemies alike without intent. And when the winds finally quiet, a soft hush washes over the land, like the galaxy resetting itself. Fact 36. Earthbending with the Force. Though rare and seldom taught, some early Force traditions practiced a forbidden technique that shaped the ground beneath their feet. Earthbending, a rough and ancient telekinetic art. Practitioners could shift soil, tilt stone slabs, or ripple the earth like gentle waves. The power resonated with planets rich in natural Force energy, responding to deep meditative states and primal instinct. Yet the ability was unpredictable. Some cultures blurred the line between guidance and domination, carving trenches or raising walls with emotional intensity rather than harmony. The Jedi chose not to preserve this art, fearing that bending the land through will alone might lead to arrogance. The belief that nature itself should bow to one's desire. And as the dust settled from each lifted stone, humility became the lesson left behind. Fact 37. The Silent Step. In the earliest days of Jedi exploration, some wanderers learned to walk with such profound connection to the Force that their footsteps made no sound at all. This forbidden technique, called the Silent Step, allowed the user to move as though weightless, gliding over stone, sand, or metal without disturbing a single grain. Masters warned that it required complete inner emptiness, the quieting of every racing thought, every spark of emotion. Yet even when practiced with pure intention, the ability often led to secrecy, encouraging its wielder to drift unseen through halls and forests alike. The Jedi feared that stealth without purpose could invite mistrust, and mistrust could fracture harmony. And in the stillness left behind, footsteps became whispers, lost to the wind. Fact 38. Sonic shock. Among the rarest forms of telekinetic manipulation is sonic shock, a technique that vibrates the air with such intensity that sound itself becomes a weapon. Rather than generating noise, the user focuses microscopic tremors into a single pulse that travels outward invisibly. The result is a sudden crushing wave that can stun, disorient, or even shatter fragile objects. To those struck, it feels like standing too close to thunder, yet hearing nothing at all. The danger lies in its precision. A slight imbalance of emotion can magnify the vibration, turning a harmless pulse into a destructive blast. Because of this volatility, the Jedi locked the method away, treating it as a reminder of how even the gentlest elements can be twisted into harm. And when the final vibration fades, the quiet that follows feels deeper than before. Fact 39. Blood-bound lightning. Deep within forbidden Sith manuscripts lies mention of a chilling technique known as blood-bound lightning. Unlike ordinary force lightning, this variation attunes itself to the lineage of the user, weaving their ancestral emotions into every crackling bolt. The lightning burns not only with power, but with the echoes of generations, triumphs, fears, hatreds, griefs. Some Sith believed it strengthened their attacks by anchoring them to legacy. Others feared it, for it revealed more about the caster than they wished to show. The technique was so personal, so consuming, that it often left users shaken, as if ancestral memories had surged through them like fire. And when the last sparks vanished, only the faint scent of history remained in the air. Fact 40. The shattering touch. Whispered among ancient warriors is a technique known simply as the shattering touch, a forbidden ability that channels the Force into a single point of contact. With just a fingertip, a practitioner could fracture stone, splinter durasteel, or disrupt the flow of energy within delicate machinery. It was not strength that made this possible, but focus, a razor-thin alignment of intent, emotion, and will. Those who mastered it often describe the sensation as holding a storm inside a whisper, a tempest condensed into stillness. Yet the danger was profound. The same energy, if misaligned, could rebound inward and fracture the user's own body or spirit. And after each touch, a haunting quiet lingered, as if the world itself paused to breathe. Fact 41. Moment. Freezing. In the deeper corners of forbidden Jedi texts lies a technique called moment freezing, the art of slowing one's perception of time until the world seems to drift at a gentle crawl. Practitioners did not stop time, but expanded awareness so fully that each heartbeat, each drifting particle of dust, felt suspended in a vast stillness. In this state, choices unfolded with calm clarity. Danger felt distant, softened, almost serene. But the ability carried a subtle cost. Remaining in this slowed perception too long blurred the boundary between motion and stillness, making the return to normal time disorienting. Some mystics described it like waking from a dream that refused to release them. And as the moment resumed, the world felt just a little softer, like time itself exhaled. Fact 42. Chrono meditation. Before prophecies, before holocrons, before the great temples rose, early Force seers practiced chrono meditation, a deep trance that let their minds drift through echoes of the past and gentle ripples of the future. They didn't see clear visions, but impressions, warm traces of joy that once happened, cool hints of danger yet to come. To them, time was a river, and chrono meditation allowed their spirit to float just above its surface. Yet even this quiet art was eventually forbidden, for some seekers grew addicted to its insights. They spent more hours watching what could be than living fully in the present. And when they returned from these drifting trances, the present moment felt fragile, as though the future still whispered at the edges. Fact 43. Temporal drift. Some ancient Force mystics discovered a trance so deep that their spirits seemed to slip along the edges of time. They called it temporal drift, a state where the present loosened its grip, allowing the mind to wander among memories and possibilities. Practitioners described it not as seeing past or future directly, but as floating through gentle currents of what once was and what might be. In this drifting haze, time felt less like a line and more like a wide, starlit ocean. But there was danger in returning. Those who drifted too far often woke disoriented, unable to separate memory from vision or possibility from truth. And when the drift faded, the present moment felt like an island rising from mist. Fact 44. Future consumption. Among the darkest time-touched abilities lies the forbidden practice of future consumption, the act of drawing strength from potential futures that may never come to pass. Instead of seeing the future, the user devoured the energy of possibilities, feeding on outcomes like flickers of starlight. This technique granted bursts of clarity, power, or foresight, but at a terrible price. Stealing from the future weakened the paths ahead, leaving destinies brittle or fragmented. Some ancient texts claim entire civilizations once used this art, draining their own tomorrows until no future remained for them to walk into. Whether myth or truth, the Jedi feared what such hunger could unleash. And as each stolen future dimmed, the galaxy whispered warnings only the wise could hear. Fact 45. The thread sever. Among the most chilling forbidden abilities is the thread sever, a technique believed to cut someone's destiny from the subtle weave of the Force. Practitioners visualize life as an intricate tapestry, each being connected by shimmering lines of possibility. With immense focus and emotion, they could slice through a thread, redirecting fate or severing a path entirely. Though rarely mastered, its effects were profound. Alliances dissolved, hopes collapsed, or destinies once bright simply faded into obscurity. The Jedi forbade this art with absolute certainty, declaring that no being should attempt to reshape another's future through force. And when a thread was cut, the cosmic tapestry trembled, a soft warning felt by those who listened closely. Fact 46. Visions that demand a price. Throughout the galaxy's oldest tales, seers spoke of a rare and troubling phenomenon, visions that demanded a price. These were not the gentle glimpses granted by meditation, but powerful flashes of future or past that arrived uninvited and overwhelming. Practitioners described them as lightning within the mind, brilliant, painful, and impossible to ignore. Such visions carried truths too heavy for the heart, revealing tragedies that could not be stopped, or joys destined never to blossom. The cost came afterward. For days or weeks, those touched by these visions felt drained, as though part of their spirit had been poured into the sight itself. The Jedi learned to fear these moments, treating them with reverence rather than ambition. And when the vision faded, quiet tears often followed, falling like distant star drops. Fact 47. Astral projection. Among the oldest and most fragile of forbidden abilities is astral projection, the power to send one's consciousness across vast distances while the body lies in still meditation. In this state, the spirit becomes light as mist, drifting through hyperspace currents and whispering winds of the unseen. Practitioners could visit distant worlds, communicate with allies, or observe far-off events without ever leaving their resting place. But the technique was perilous. A strong emotional shock could sever the tether between body and spirit, leaving the user lost in the astral plane, wandering like a half-forgotten dream. Even those who returned described a lingering weightlessness, as though part of them had remained among the stars. And in that gentle drift, the galaxy felt impossibly vast, yet intimately close. Fact 48. Sleeper's Prophecy. Hidden in quiet legends is a delicate ability known as sleeper's prophecy. Visions granted only during the deepest phases of sleep. Unlike ordinary dreams, these prophetic whispers arrived unprovoked, offering symbolic glimpses of events yet to unfold. The dreamer might see a doorway cracking with light, a star flickering out, or a tree losing its final leaf. Interpreting these dreams required intuition rather than logic, for the force spoke in poetry rather than certainty. The Jedi treated sleeper's prophecy with caution, believing it too easy to mistake fear for foretelling or hope for destiny. Some masters even taught their students to let these dreams pass without clinging to them, and when morning came, the prophecy dissolved like mist at dawn, leaving only a quiet feeling behind. Fact 49. Memory of Stars. Among the gentlest forbidden abilities, whispered through ancient lore, is memory of stars. The uncanny sensation of recalling moments that occurred long before one's birth. Practitioners described it as a soft echo, a memory that wasn't theirs yet felt familiar, as though the galaxy itself were sharing its ancient stories. These impressions came during meditation or quiet solitude. The feeling of standing on a world never visited, the scent of a forest long vanished, or the sorrow of a forgotten war. While these glimpses were peaceful, they blurred the fragile line between personal experience and cosmic memory. Jedi Masters feared that seekers would lose themselves in histories not their own, drifting away from the present moment. And as each echo faded, it left behind a hush, the kind that lingers between stars. Fact 50. The Anchor Technique. To protect themselves from overwhelming visions or emotional floods, early seers learned a subtle method called the Anchor Technique. It involved tying one's awareness to a single, calming thought, a breath, a sensation, a memory of safety, so that no matter how far their mind drifted into force currents, they could always return. This anchor acted like a cord of gentle light, a lifeline through swirling impressions of past or future. Yet even this helpful practice became forbidden in time. Some seekers tied themselves too tightly to their anchors, retreating into trance whenever life felt heavy, using meditation not for balance, but for escape. And when they finally resurfaced, the world felt changed, as though time had moved faster than their hearts could follow. Fact 51. Shadow Calling. As we cross into the realm of spirits and echoes, one of the earliest forbidden arts is known as shadow calling. The act of reaching out through the Force to summon faint impressions of ancient Sith spirits. These were not true conversations, but murmurs, half-formed whispers, flickers of presence responding to the seeker's emotion. Practitioners hoped to gain wisdom or guidance, but the shadows rarely offered clarity. Instead, they echoed fears, doubts, or desires the user already carried within. The Jedi forbade shadow calling because such echoes fed on vulnerability. A single whisper at the wrong moment could tilt a heart toward darkness without ever meaning to. And in the silence after the whisper, the seeker was left to face the shadows within themselves. Fact 52. The hollow mask. Whispered in the oldest temples is a technique known as the hollow mask, a forbidden practice that allowed a wandering spirit to briefly speak through the body of a living host. Unlike possession, this was a reluctant merging, a fragile moment where the boundary between the living and the departed thinned like fog at dawn. Practitioners described a coldness settling over their face, as though wearing an invisible mask carved from moonlight. The spirit's voice emerged softly through their lips, distant and trembling, leaving behind a residue of memory or emotion. The Jedi forbade this art because such contact drained both host and spirit, unsettling the delicate balance between life and death. And when the mask faded, the silence felt impossibly deep, as if the galaxy itself exhaled. Fact 53. Soul fragmentation. In the darkest chapters of ancient lore, there exists a desperate technique called soul fragmentation, the act of dividing one's consciousness into pieces to preserve the self in the face of death. Practitioners believe that scattering fragments into objects, places, or even other minds could grant a form of survival, allowing echoes of their identity to linger after the body fell. But fragmentation came with a terrible price. Each split weakened the whole, fraying emotions, memories, and willpower. Some who survived the initial ritual lived on hollow and unfocused, their thoughts drifting like scattered leaves in the wind. Others simply faded, their fragments too weak to return. And in those faint remnants, one could feel both the tragedy of clinging and the beauty of letting go. Fact 54. The spirit drain. Among the rarest and most unsettling forbidden abilities is the spirit drain, the act of absorbing the essence of non-physical beings. Practitioners attempted to pull strength from wandering force echoes, fractured souls, or manifestations of ancient darkness. Unlike life drain, which draws from the living, this technique fed on memory, emotion, and awareness itself. Those who used it found their own spirits shifting, absorbing traits or impressions from whatever they consumed. A sorrowful whisper here, a flash of rage there. Over time, the practitioner risked becoming a mosaic of borrowed echoes, no longer certain which pieces truly belonged to them. And after each such encounter, a cold emptiness lingered, like starlight fading in a forgotten corner of the sky. Fact 55. The Wound Walker. Among the most delicate forbidden abilities is the Wound Walker, the gift to enter places where the Force has been scarred by great suffering. These places, called Force wounds, feel hollow and cold, as if the galaxy itself has taken a slow, pained breath. Most beings sense only discomfort, but a Wound Walker can step directly into these voids without losing themselves. Practitioners describe these journeys as drifting through muted landscapes where emotions felt distant and muffled. Yet the price was heavy. Even the strongest souls carried echoes of the wound afterward, faint tremors of sorrow or dread that lingered in their dreams. The Jedi forbade this ability, believing no one should walk so close to the galaxy's deepest injuries. And when the wound finally released them, the world felt heavier, but somehow more understood. Fact 56. Netherworld. Listening. Scattered across forgotten archives is the quiet art of netherworld listening, the ability to hear faint whispers from beyond the veil of death. These were not full conversations, nor clear voices, but fleeting impressions carried on the stillness of meditation. A sense of longing, a hint of peace, a mournful echo of something left unfinished. Practitioners learn to sit perfectly still, letting their awareness drift between worlds until the softest signals reach them. But the danger was subtle. Listening too closely could pull the mind toward the netherworld, blurring the line between physical and spiritual space. Jedi masters feared that an untrained heart might be tempted to follow those whispers too far and not return. And when the whispers faded, only the gentle rustle of breath remained. Fact 57. The Lantern Meditation. Among ancient mystics, there was a compassionate yet forbidden practice called the Lantern Meditation, a ritual meant to guide wandering spirits toward peace. Practitioners would sit in darkness, visualizing themselves as a small flame in an endless night. Through that quiet light, they extended comfort to spirits lost in confusion or grief, offering them a path toward the Force's embrace. But each act dimmed the practitioner's inner flame ever so slightly, as though part of their warmth was given away. Those who performed the ritual often felt drained afterward, filled with a deep, aching tenderness. The Jedi forbade it, not because it was harmful, but because it demanded a piece of the self that could never fully return. And when the final lantern glow faded, serenity settled like dew upon the heart. Fact 58. Spirit binding. Among the most unsettling forbidden arts is spirit binding, the act of trapping a wandering force presence within an object, usually a talisman or relic. Practitioners used intricate rituals, weaving threads of will and emotion into knots that held a spirit in place. These bindings were never perfect. The imprisoned essence flickered like a candle caught in a draft, whispering softly to anyone who held the talisman. While some cultures believed this granted protection or wisdom, the Jedi saw only suffering. Binding a spirit, even gently, halted its journey into the Force, leaving it suspended in a half-light state, neither present nor free. Such an act weighed heavily on both spirit and binder, and when the binding finally loosened, a cold shiver often passed through the air, as if something long held had slipped away. Fact 59. Astral chains. In the stories passed quietly between ancient mystics, there is mention of astral chains, a technique used to restrain or anchor non-physical beings. Unlike spirit binding, which traps, astral chains tether. They form invisible lines of force energy that keep a spirit from drifting too far from a designated point. Practitioners describe these chains as shimmering threads of intention, flexible yet unbreakable when woven with enough focus. But forging such chains required emotional intensity, often drawing from fear or desperation. Over time, the chains affected the caster as well, imprinting their spirit with tension, rigidity, or lingering dread. The Jedi forbade this technique, believing no one should attempt to hold another being in place against the currents of eternity. And when the chains dissolved, a soft sigh of release echoed through the space they once held. Fact 60. The Echo Transfer. As our journey through spirit arts closes this chapter, we come to the Echo Transfer, a forbidden technique for leaving behind a piece of one's consciousness after death. Unlike fragmentation or binding, this practice focused on generosity. A dying Force user could pour a final echo of memory, wisdom, or love into an object or location, creating a gentle imprint for future generations. But even this tender act was dangerous. A strong echo could become a burden, shaping the thoughts of those who touched it. A weak one might fade unevenly, leaving only fragments that confused more than they guided. The Jedi feared that even the kindest intentions could ripple through the Force in unpredictable ways. And when the echo dimmed, all that remained was a soft warmth, like a farewell carried on starlight. Fact 61. The Void Burst. In the secret histories of ancient Force warriors, there is a rare and terrifying technique known as the Void Burst, a sudden pulse of energy that erases rather than destroys. When released, it creates a momentary sphere of emptiness where the Force itself seems to fall silent. Blaster bolts vanish, lightsabers flicker, and sound drops away as though swallowed by an unseen tide. Practitioners describe the sensation as standing at the center of a collapsing star, where all energy folds inward before dispersing into stillness. Yet this power comes with immense cost. The user emerges drained, trembling, as if the void has taken a part of them with it. Even the Sith rarely touch this art, for the emptiness left behind felt deeply wrong. And when the void closed, a hush lingered, a silence too heavy to name. Fact 62. Oblivion Flame. Among the darkest manifestations of destructive energy is the Oblivion Flame, a forbidden technique that resembles fire, but consumes not matter, only the Force itself. Pale and ghost-like, these flames flicker without heat, dancing across surfaces without burning them. Instead, they unravel the energy within objects or beings, leaving behind a cold numbness where vitality once flowed. Practitioners often described an eerie feeling while summoning the flame, as though their own connection to the Force momentarily dimmed. The Jedi declared the technique an affront to the living Force, for it devoured not life, but the very essence that binds all living things. Even ancient Sith texts warn of its use, for the flame hungers indiscriminately. And when the last ember faded, the emptiness it left behind lingered like frost on the soul. Fact 63. Nightblade Form. As wars spread across the galaxy, some Force users developed a forbidden combat discipline known as Nightblade Form. This technique blended lightsaber combat with deep emotional focus, channeling fear, sorrow, or determination into razor-sharp precision. Practitioners moved with uncanny silence, their blades striking in smooth arcs that felt more like flowing water than battle. But each movement demanded emotional sacrifice. To maintain the form, the user had to hold their shadowed feelings close, feeding the technique with inner turmoil. Over time, this constant reliance wore down the spirit, turning confidence into obsession and resolve into unrest. Jedi Masters forbade the form, believing no victory was worth such internal erosion. And when the final strike was delivered, a weary calm followed, like twilight settling after a storm. Fact 64. Force Sever. Among the most feared techniques ever spoken of in Jedi archives is Force Sever, the ability to cut another being off from the Force entirely. Unlike dampening fields or natural voids, this act is intensely personal. The practitioner reaches through the living currents and severs the connection that ties the target to the galaxy's flowing energy. Those who experienced it described a sudden emptiness, as though the warmth of the Force had been pulled from their chest in a single breath. Even the user feels the shock. Severing another's connection leaves a bruise upon the soul, a hollow ache that lingers for days. The Jedi forbade the technique not only for its cruelty, but for the deep spiritual wound it inflicted on both sides. And when the connection breaks, the universe feels eerily quiet, as if one more star has gone dark. Fact 65. Armor of Shadows. In the hidden traditions of ancient warriors, lies a forbidden defense called armor of shadows. Rather than forming an external shield, this technique draws darkness inward, hardening the user's emotions until they become like unbreakable stone. Their presence dims in the Force, their movements sharpen, and their body feels encased in a cold, weightless shell. But this armor exacts a cost. To maintain it, the user must silence their hopes, doubts, and joys, allowing only severity to remain. Over time, the technique isolates the practitioner from others, turning warmth into distance and courage into detachment. Jedi masters feared that even temporary use would wither the heart, and when the armor fades, a tender ache returns, reminding the soul that it is meant to feel. Fact 66. The Echo Strike. Among forbidden martial arts exists a rare technique known as the Echo Strike. With perfect focus, the user delivers a physical blow and simultaneously releases a ripple of Force energy that lands a split second later, a second impact layered upon the first. To the target, it feels like time stutters. The first strike sharp, the second following like a delayed thunderclap. Practitioners trained for years to align body and spirit so precisely that their two strikes became one seamless motion. But the technique strained the heart. Every echo strike demanded deep emotional resonance, drawing from intense memories or convictions. Long-term practitioners often found themselves exhausted, their spirits worn thin by repeated echoes of their own inner storms. And as the ripples faded, the world settled back into a gentler rhythm, like water smoothing after a dropped stone. Fact 67. Silent Fury. Among the rarest forbidden disciplines is Silent Fury, a combat state where the user channels the Force without any visible emotion. Unlike Sith Rage or Jedi Serenity, this technique resides in a cold, focused void. The practitioner moves with terrifying precision, swift, fluid, and utterly silent, as though guided by an unseen tide. But to reach this state, one must bury every feeling, joy, fear, grief, hope, beneath a layer of stillness deeper than meditation. The Jedi forbade Silent Fury because it severed the heart from action. A warrior who fights without feeling may win battles, but they lose a piece of themselves each time. And when the fury fades, a hollow quiet lingers, like footsteps echoing through an empty temple. Fact 68. The Withering Aura. Whispered through ancient Sith texts is a forbidden power called the Withering Aura. When summoned, the user radiates a draining field of darkened Force energy that weakens all life around them. Plants wilt, animals grow uneasy, and even seasoned warriors feel their strength slip away. This aura feeds on the user's internal turmoil, growing stronger as their emotions spiral deeper into unrest. But carrying such an aura is like holding a storm beneath the skin. It erodes the practitioner from within, hollowing the heart and dimming their connection to the living Force. Many who attempted the technique found themselves exhausted for weeks afterward, haunted by the echo of decay. And when the aura collapses, the air feels fragile, as though the world must relearn how to breathe. Fact 69. The Gravity Fold. Among the most physically intense forbidden abilities is the Gravity Fold, the act of amplifying gravity in a localized area with a concentrated burst of will. Practitioners could make foes stagger, pin objects to the ground, or cause the earth itself to groan under sudden pressure. The technique required a perfect balance of focus and emotion. Even a small lapse could unleash waves far stronger than intended. Those who mastered it described the sensation as gripping the very fabric of space and pulling downward, guiding unseen forces like a slow, heavy tide. Yet prolonged use left the body trembling, the mind fatigued, and the spirit burdened by the weight it had commanded. And when the gravity released, a gentle lightness returned, like rising slowly from deep water. Fact 70. The Ashen Field. Among the last and most somber battlefield techniques whispered through forbidden lore is the Ashen Field. Practitioners released a wave of force energy that scorched the ground in a wide radius, leaving soil pale and lifeless, as though touched by centuries of decay in a single moment. The effect was not fire, but a kind of spiritual withering, a draining of vitality from the land itself. To the user, the technique felt like pouring out every heavy memory they had ever carried. Grief, loss, regret, all woven into a single sweeping breath. Many who used it fell to their knees afterward, trembling beneath the weight of their own unleashed sorrow. The Jedi never taught it. The Sith rarely used it. It belonged to no one, and should have remained untouched. And when the field grew quiet again, even the wind seemed afraid to return. Fact 71. The Unlit Path. As we enter the teachings once held and forbidden by the Jedi themselves, we begin with the unlit path. This was not a technique, but a hidden curriculum, a set of meditative practices designed to explore the deepest shadows of the self. Jedi Masters created it to help knights confront fear, desire, and doubt without succumbing to them. Yet walking this path was perilous. It required stepping into the edges of darkness, letting old wounds surface, and facing them with clarity rather than resistance. Some Jedi emerged stronger and more compassionate. Others lost themselves in the emotions they uncovered. Eventually, the Council sealed the unlit path, fearing that too many initiates sought insight without guidance or humility. And in the silence of locked archives, those teachings remained like candles never meant to burn. Fact 72. The Pure Trance. Deep within ancient Jedi texts lies mention of the pure trance, a meditative state so profound that consciousness brushed the outer edges of the Force itself. Practitioners described it as floating in warm starlight, every thought dissolving into a single peaceful hum. In this state, some experienced heightened intuition, glimpses of possible futures, or profound emotional release. But there was a risk: returning. A few Jedi grew reluctant to leave the trance, preferring its serenity over the complexities of life. Others came back disoriented, as though their spirit had wandered too far from their body. The Order forbade its teaching, knowing that even peace, if held too tightly, can become a prison. And when the trance faded, breath returned slowly, like waking from a dream woven by the Force itself. Fact 73. Psychic Mending. Within the oldest Jedi enclaves, there existed a compassionate yet forbidden ability known as psychic mending. Unlike traditional healing, which restored the body, this rare technique allowed a Jedi to step gently into another being's mind to soothe emotional wounds. Practitioners felt the other's grief, fear, and trauma as if it were their own, guiding those feelings toward release with profound empathy. But the act was dangerous. To heal another's emotions, one had to open themselves completely, leaving their own heart vulnerable to whatever pain they encountered. Many who practiced psychic mending carried pieces of others' sorrow long after the healing was done. Though beautiful, it blurred the sacred boundary between self and other. And when the connection ended, the Jedi often sat in long silence, letting borrowed emotions drift away like fading starlight. Fact 74. Force reversal. Among the most delicate of the forbidden arts is force reversal, a technique that takes the dark energy directed at a Jedi and turns it gently back upon its source. This wasn't aggression, but redirection, like guiding a river away from a fragile valley. Practitioners describe the sensation as catching a storm in their hands and letting its power swirl harmlessly past them before returning to the sky. But the technique required absolute serenity. A single spark of anger from the user would twist the reversal into retaliation, warping a peaceful act into one fueled by shadow. Because of this fragile balance, the council forbade the technique, fearing how easily it could tilt into harm. And when the storm passed, the stillness that followed felt like a soft, forgiving rain. Fact 75. The last calm. Among the most solemn and rarely spoken Jedi techniques is the last calm, a meditative state designed for those who believed they were nearing their final moments. Practitioners slowed their breath, quieted the mind, and opened themselves to the Force with complete acceptance. In this state, fear dissolved, time softened, and the galaxy felt profoundly gentle. Those who entered the last calm did not seek escape, only peace, a way to meet the unknown with grace. Jedi Masters feared teaching it widely, for some warriors used it as a way to detach too deeply, losing their tether to the living world. And when the meditation ended, whether in life or beyond, a profound tranquility lingered, like a final note held in an endless song. Fact 76. The Song of Balance. In quiet corners of ancient Jedi temples, one could sometimes hear the faintest hum, a low, gentle chant called the Song of Balance. This forbidden technique used a carefully tuned vibration of the voice, guided by the Force, to soothe wounded places where light and dark had collided. Practitioners describe the sensation as singing with the galaxy itself, feeling every note resonate through stone, air, and spirit. But the song carried risk. To weave harmony into a broken place, one had to open their heart fully, allowing the environment's lingering pain to flow through them. A careless singer could become overwhelmed, absorbing echoes of conflict or sorrow. For this reason, the Jedi hid the chant, fearing that even the purest healing could wound the healer. And when the final note faded, calm settled like silver dust upon the mind. Fact 77. Echo suppression. Another subtle forbidden art was echo suppression, the ability to quiet the lingering emotional residue left behind after traumatic events. These echoes often clung to battlefields, abandoned temples, or places marked by deep loss. A skilled practitioner could enter such a space and gently draw the emotions inward, dispersing the tension like fog in warm light. Yet this act was dangerous, for the Force did not simply erase emotion, it transferred it. Those who performed echo suppression felt the weight of those emotions settle temporarily into their own hearts. Fear, grief, rage, confusion. Jedi who practiced it often needed days of meditation afterward to release what they had absorbed. And when the echoes finally quieted, a peaceful emptiness remained, soft as dawn. Fact 78. The glass reflection. Among the most introspective forbidden techniques is the glass reflection, a meditation in which a Jedi confronts a perfect vision of their darkest self. Unlike trials or illusions, this reflection does not judge or attack. It simply stands, mirroring every hidden fear, resentment, and desire the meditator carries within. Those who practiced it described the moment as staring into a window where the light bends just enough to show what lies beneath the surface. Some emerged wiser, having accepted their shadows with compassion. Others recoiled, overwhelmed by the truth of what they might become. The Jedi forbade the technique because such confrontations, without guidance, risked tipping a seeker toward despair or temptation. And when the reflection faded, the self felt both lighter and more deeply understood. Fact 79. The Bright Barrier. In the final chapters of Forbidden Jedi knowledge lies a rare protective art called the Bright Barrier. Unlike shields built from willpower or aggression, this technique formed a radiant veil of pure clarity, a shimmering field that repelled invasive spirits, visions, or dark influences. Practitioners described it as standing within a warm beam of starlight, the barrier humming softly around them like a guardian made of harmony. But creating such purity required extraordinary emotional balance. Even a flicker of doubt could fracture the barrier or let darkness slip through the cracks. Many Jedi feared that striving for such perfection invited arrogance or despair, and so the technique was hidden from common teaching. And when the barrier dissolved, it left behind a gentle warmth, like the last glow of a distant sun. Fact 80. The seventh breath. Among ancient meditation practices, there was a quiet and powerful technique known as the seventh breath. This forbidden rhythm aligned breath with the Force in 7 slow phases, each step peeling back layers of tension and unlocking reservoirs of hidden strength. Practitioners felt their senses sharpen, their focus deepen, and their bodies grow light, as if carried by unseen currents. Yet this empowerment came with risk. The seventh breath awakened reserves not meant for frequent use. It pushed the body close to its spiritual limits. Some Jedi grew dependent on its clarity, relying on it too often and leaving themselves exhausted, ungrounded, or emotionally brittle. And when the final breath released, a calm exhale drifted out like a soft cloud rising toward the stars. Fact 81. The Rite of Shadows. As we cross fully into the realm of the Sith, the first forbidden ritual is the Rite of Shadows, an initiation meant to bind the seeker to the darker currents of the Force. Performed in dim, echoing chambers, the rite plunged the practitioner into a vision, forged from their deepest fears and desires. Emerging meant accepting these shadows as part of one's power, not something to resist. But the trial was perilous. Some initiates became trapped within their own illusions, lost in endless loops of longing or regret. Others returned changed, quieter, colder. Their presence in the Force dimmed like a flame cupped by a trembling hand. Sith lords viewed the rite as a test of truth. The Jedi saw only suffering. And when the vision faded, a thin veil of darkness clung to the air. Fact 82. Blood runes. In ancient Sith temples, carved into obsidian walls and etched into talismans, were blood runes, symbols empowered by the living force of the one who inscribed them. These markings pulsed faintly when charged with intent, guiding dark rituals, amplifying certain abilities, or anchoring spirits to a chosen place. Practitioners described the act of engraving them as strangely meditative. The Force seemed to thrum beneath their fingertips, responding to each line drawn. But the cost was steep. Creating a blood rune required the user to offer a fragment of their own vitality, tying their fate to the sigil. Long after the ritual ended, the runes sometimes whispered back, quiet reminders of the moment they were formed. And when the symbols dimmed, a faint chill lingered, like stone remembering old intentions. Fact 83. The Iron Echo. Among forbidden Sith techniques is a vocal ritual known as the Iron Echo. This chant was performed in cavernous spaces, where voices bounced endlessly through the dark. Practitioners sang in low, resonant tones, allowing their emotions, pain, determination, fury, to vibrate through the air until the force absorbed them. As the chant deepened, the user's will strengthened, becoming rigid and unyielding like forged metal. But the ritual hardened more than resolve. Those who relied on the iron echo too often found their hearts growing inflexible, their compassion dulled, their thoughts shaped by the relentless rhythm. Even powerful Sith avoided overuse, knowing will without softness becomes brittle. And when the last vibration faded, the silence felt almost tender in comparison. Fact 84. The Hunger Ritual. In the darker reaches of Sith, lore lies the Hunger Ritual, a ceremony designed to amplify one's destructive intent. Practitioners surrounded themselves with symbols of desire and loss, meditating until their cravings for power, revenge, or recognition rose like a storm within the chest. At the ritual's peak, the Sith channeled this churning energy into the Force, creating a surge of strength fueled entirely by longing. Yet such power never came without consequence. The ritual did not satisfy hunger. It magnified it. Each use deepened the craving, carving hollows in the spirit that no victory could fill. Many who practiced it found themselves forever chasing a need that grew sharper with every attempt to feed it. And when the ritual ended, the emptiness it left behind felt wider than the night sky. Fact 85. The Threefold Break. Among the most feared and forbidden Sith rites is the Threefold Break, a ritual that scars the Force itself in 3 deliberate steps. First, the practitioner severs their emotional restraint, allowing raw feeling to surface unchecked. Second, they project that turmoil outward, carving a wound in the surrounding energy. And third, they bind their will into the fracture, ensuring it remains long after the ritual ends. These breaks were said to make places feel colder, heavier, or strangely muted, as though time itself staggered around them. Even the Sith approached the ritual with caution, for the scars it created were unpredictable and often attracted restless echoes from the past. And when the final break settled, an uneasy quiet drifted through the air like smoke from an unseen fire. Fact 86. The Vessel Practice. Whispered only in the deepest vaults of Sith knowledge is the Vessel Practice, a method of preparing one's body to host a spirit, often their own, sometimes another's. Practitioners undertook months of meditation and ritual strengthening, hollowing parts of their identity to make room for an incoming presence. They described it as carving channels within the self, smoothing the edges of the mind so another consciousness might settle without tearing it apart. But the danger was profound. A vessel that became too empty risked losing its anchor to the physical world. Others overloaded themselves, trying to carry more than one spirit, fracturing their identity into unstable pieces. The Jedi condemned this practice utterly, seeing only suffering in its purpose. And when the preparation ended, the vessel lingered in eerie stillness, like a room awaiting a guest who should never arrive. Fact 87. The Void Meditation. As we drift further into the shadows, we find the Void Meditation, a Sith technique that collapses all emotion inward until the self becomes an empty well. Practitioners sat in utter stillness, drawing their feelings into a single dense core, creating a vacuum where the Force felt thin and distant. In this void, pain dulled, fear faded, and ambition burned faintly, like a star seen through frost. But the meditation was treacherous. Some who embraced the void found it difficult to feel anything afterward, their emotions slow to return. Others emerged sharpened, their will hardened by the absence of sentiment. The Jedi believed such emptiness separated the spirit from the living force, leaving only cold intention behind. And when the void finally released them, the world returned in soft, overwhelming waves. Light, sound, emotion flooding in like a tide. Fact 88. Sith Shadow. Alchemy. Hidden within ancient vaults is a forbidden craft known as Sith Shadow Alchemy, an art of shaping talismans, amulets, and artifacts using not only materials, but emotions. Practitioners infused objects with concentrated fear, anger, or longing, weaving these feelings into the very grain of stone or metal. These relics hummed faintly when touched, their energy rippling like dark water beneath moonlight. Yet the act of creation took a toll. To infuse an object with emotion, the Sith had to relive that emotion intensely, letting it surge through their spirit before transferring it outward. Some grew addicted to the process, while others became consumed by the echoes they poured into their creations. And when the final relic cooled, it carried a quiet shiver, as though a memory had been trapped inside. Fact 89. The Red Labyrinth. In the deeper chambers of forgotten Sith academies lies a mental trial known as the Red Labyrinth, a maze forged entirely within the mind, created through ritual and focused intent. Once entered, the practitioner wandered twisting corridors shaped by their fears, desires, and hidden truths. At every turn awaited a challenge, a memory, a regret, a shadow of possibility. Finding the exit required not strength, but honesty. Many Sith became trapped for hours or even days, unable to face the truths that blocked their path. Some emerged stronger, others emerged hollow, having left parts of themselves behind in the maze's crimson halls. And when the labyrinth dissolved, the air felt strangely thin, as though the mind had run far, only now returning to rest. Fact 90. The Final Binding. Among the last and most harrowing of forbidden Sith rituals is the Final Binding, a ceremony meant to tie one's destiny to a single purpose, vow, or individual. The practitioner carved their intent into the Force through incantation, meditation, and sacrifice, forging a metaphysical chain that shaped every future choice. Though powerful, the binding was perilous. If made in anger or desperation, it dragged the user into destructive paths from which they could not easily escape. If made with obsession, it tightened around the spirit like iron bands. Even if made with clarity, the ritual allowed little room for growth or change, a destiny locked, unyielding. And when the binding settled, the future felt fixed, like a star frozen in a night sky that refuses to move. Fact 91. Myths of the Forbidden Force. Across thousands of worlds, far from temples and academies, old storytellers speak of Forbidden Force abilities not as techniques, but as myths. These tales drift through marketplaces, starports, and campfires. Stories of travelers who could whisper to shadows, warriors who bent time, or healers who carried the memories of entire generations. Though often exaggerated, these myths hold gentle truths, reflections of real abilities that once shaped the galaxy in secret. For many cultures, these stories were warnings. For others, they were lessons in humility or awe. And for a few, they were simply lullabies, meant to remind children that the universe is vast, wondrous, and full of mysteries not meant to be touched. And when the Eve stories ended, silence wrapped around listeners like a soft cloak of starlight. Fact 92. The Hidden Price of Power. Throughout the history of forbidden abilities, one theme appears again and again. Every power carries a price. Some costs were physical, exhaustion, pain, or deterioration. Others were emotional, fracturing the heart or stirring shadows within the spirit. And some were spiritual, severing bonds, dimming connections, or leaving behind invisible scars that pulsed with quiet ache. The Jedi understood this deeply. They believed that the Force, in all its wisdom, asks for balance. Any technique that pushes too far in one direction must be met with consequence on the other side. The Sith, too, learned this truth, though often too late, after pursuing power that consumed more than it gave. And when the price was finally paid, the galaxy exhaled, a reminder that even shadows must settle. Fact 93. The quiet abandonment. While many sought forbidden powers, a few chose the gentler path, to walk away from them. These were wanderers, sages, and former warriors who recognized the weight of the abilities they carried and chose silence over mastery. Some retreated to remote worlds, living simple lives where the Force felt soft and unburdened. Others became storytellers, offering wisdom through parables rather than teachings. Their abandonment wasn't weakness, but strength, the choice to let go of knowledge that could wound themselves or others. These quiet figures left almost no mark on history, yet their peace echoed softly through the generations, reminding the galaxy that restraint, too, is a form of power. And in their stillness, the Force flowed gently, like water finding its way home. Fact 94. Lost worlds of study. Across the galaxy, there were once hidden planets where forbidden Force abilities were explored in secret. Quiet worlds, tucked behind nebulae or forgotten star routes. These places, known only in fragmented legends, served as sanctuaries for seekers who wished to experiment beyond the boundaries set by the Jedi or the Sith. Some worlds hummed with ancient temples buried beneath vines. Others were barren deserts where whispers carried far across the dunes. But over time, these worlds vanished from maps. Some were abandoned, their teachings lost to dust. Others were deliberately hidden, sealed by travelers who feared what might happen if such secrets fell into careless hands. Yet even now, a few wanderers speak of these planets in hushed tones, as if they still breathe beneath the stars. And when these stories fade, a soft longing lingers for knowledge untouched by time. Fact 95. The last practitioners. Not all forbidden abilities disappeared completely. Here and there, scattered through the centuries, arose solitary figures who still carried fragments of forgotten arts. These individuals were wanderers, hermits, or reluctant mystics who learned their techniques by accident, inheritance, or intuition. They seldom sought power. Instead, they lived quietly, using their abilities only when necessity called. Some healed with forbidden tenderness. Some saw the future in restless dreams. Some walked through Force wounds with compassion rather than fear. Though never recognized by orders or empires, these last practitioners were often gentle souls, humble enough to hold great power without falling into shadow. Their stories rarely survived in archives, but they persisted in whispered rumors, traveling from one star system to the next. And when their journeys ended, their abilities faded like lantern lights swallowed by dawn. Fact 96. Force scars. Among the lingering signs of forbidden abilities are Force scars, invisible wounds left behind when powerful techniques twist the natural flow of energy. These scars exist on worlds, in objects, and sometimes within living beings. A scar might feel like a sudden chill in the air, a stillness where the Force runs thin, or a faint vibration that hums beneath the surface of things. Practitioners who carried these scars often described them not as pain, but as reminders, echoes of moments where they pushed too far, felt too deeply, or crossed boundaries they later wished they hadn't. The Jedi treated such scars as lessons in humility. The Sith treated them as symbols of achievement. And in these quiet marks upon the galaxy, the past whispers softly, refusing to fully fade. Fact 97. The unspoken oaths. Within the Jedi Order, long before official codes and doctrines were etched into holocrons, there existed a set of unspoken oaths, quiet promises made in meditation rather than ceremony. These vows were whispered only to the Force itself, pledges to avoid techniques that harmed the soul, to resist the temptation of forbidden abilities, and to protect others from knowledge that might wound their hearts. These oaths were not enforced by councils or masters. They were voluntary acts of humility. A Jedi who sensed the allure of dangerous power would sit beneath the stars and renew their vow in silence, letting the words drift into the night like tiny comets. Though no written record survives, their spirit lingers, gentle, steady, and full of reverence. And when the vow settled, the heart felt lighter, as though wrapped in soft moonlit air. Fact 98. The Great Forgetting. Across millennia, the galaxy experienced moments scholars now call the Great Forgetting. Eras when large portions of forbidden Force knowledge vanished all at once. Sometimes it happened through war, when libraries burned or temples collapsed. Other times it occurred through choice, when surviving scholars concealed teachings they deemed too dangerous for future generations. But the greatest forgetting occurred not through destruction, but through peace. When ages of harmony stretched on, fewer beings felt drawn to shadowed techniques, and the memories of them faded naturally. Like old stories, no one retold. Thus some forbidden abilities disappeared, not with violence, but with calm, quiet disinterest. Lost because the galaxy simply no longer needed them. And in that gentle forgetting, the Force seemed to sigh with relief. Fact 99. When shadows sleep. Despite their dangers, forbidden abilities never truly die. They linger at the edges of the Force like dormant seeds, asleep but not gone. In forgotten ruins, in cracked holocrons, in the memories of lonely wanderers, these powers wait with patient stillness. They are not malicious in their rest. They simply exist. Fragments of the galaxy's long and complicated history. Sometimes a traveler passing through an ancient site feels a faint shiver, as though the past briefly stirred. Sometimes a dream carries the echo of a technique long buried. Yet these shadows rarely awaken fully, for the Force itself seems to cradle them in slumber, urging them toward stillness rather than revival. And as the shadows rest, the galaxy breathes in quiet peace, a peace made of ages and starlight. Fact 100. The balance returns. In the end, every forbidden ability, every shadow, whisper, and forgotten technique becomes part of a larger truth. The Force always seeks balance. Darkness rises, but so does light. Powers vanish, but wisdom remains. Even the most perilous arts eventually quiet, settling like dust in old temples, waiting for the galaxy to grow calm enough to hold their memory without fear. For those who study these ancient echoes, the lesson is simple. Nothing in the Force is meant to dominate forever. Even shadowed abilities, once feared or coveted, fade into gentler shapes when viewed through the lens of time. And as the galaxy turns, softly and endlessly, the Force weaves all paths, dark and bright, back into harmony. And in that harmony, your own rest begins. And as our long journey through the hidden corners of the Force comes to a close, may the galaxy grow quiet around you now. The stars dimming to a gentle glow, the ancient whispers settling into calm. You've drifted with forgotten powers, walked among shadows and starlight, and listened to secrets older than empires. But here, in this moment, nothing is forbidden anymore. There is only peace, only stillness, only the soft rhythm of your breath, moving like a calm tide beneath twin suns. If these sleepy stories carried you into the stars tonight, feel free to like, subscribe, and share which corner of the galaxy you'd love to dream through next. And when you're ready to keep drifting, tap the end screen to continue your voyage into another quiet night, into another gentle legend, into another world wrapped in the soft hum of the Force. Rest well, traveler. The Force will guide your dreams.